Come out here, kind of by the Rieto, walk by the water, walk through the desert. In this area that has a whole bunch of pottery and stuff everywhere. Just to get out and have a little solitary time. We did Halloween, we had a little gathering and stuff, and it was cool, it was good. Man, being a Sigma INTJ type, I really do need my periods of solitude to recharge, get overwhelmed by everybody else's energy, their feelings, their emotions, their thoughts, their ideas, their wants are like swimming constantly. And you do get tired. You know, you can't swim, you can't tread water constantly. So you gotta get away and get your feet back on solid ground. And sometimes that just requires solitude and alone time. And, regrounding yourself in your own thoughts, your own priorities. And, it's good to spend time with family, and, that's a part of healthy social being, spending time with others, but also regrounding and spending time just by yourself and in nature, enjoying quietude. Feeling this shift in the wind feels to me like we're coming up on a paradigm change. Like there's a massive shift in the wind, in the cosmos, and the universe, and the planet. I personally feel it. I feel change, massive change coming to society, humanity. Can't put my finger on it exactly and say exactly why or what, but it just feels like something's shifting. And whatever that is, I really have come to a point in my life personally that I don't feel so fixed anymore these days on what things are, what they should be, what they need to be, what they're going to be. That hasn't been a priority to me for quite some time, because I think some of the better things in life are random. They don't have any planning involved. I think when you plan, you end up with results, but a lot of times it's kind of boring. You get what you expect all the time. It's kind of dry, kind of flavorless. Sometimes you just do without thought. No planning, no thinking, no expectations. Just pure in the moment. And experiencing the moment as it is, rather than what you expect it to be or want it to be, or, you know, taking you out of the equation in a sense. Lets surprise in, lets randomness. I do like random. I do like random because it's, to me, like salt and pepper. It's flavor. It's what makes things interesting. A lot of times it is a lot of planning, it feels like, when you're spending your time with your social circle and your people and your family. There's a lot of planning involved. There's a lot of thought towards the future and the past, and a lot of conversations about, you know, back then and in the future. Always planning and thinking and bringing up things from the past and thinking about things that are going to be in the future and planning for them. And you lose track of the moment. You lose that just letting things be and experiencing the now and letting the now be. And for me, that's kind of sad a little bit. It's flavorless a little bit. And that's part of why I like to get a lot of my alone time, is to retain what I see as flavor. Keeping that randomness in the moment and letting things be what they are. It is relaxing, relieving. Makes me definitely feel grounded. It takes a lot of energy to feel in control and to really impose control. You know, to be constantly planning and remembering and going back to then and when and the future is a little bit taxing. A little bit taxing. But a little walk through the water, observing nature out here, and just letting the mind wander. It's like a defrag, a declutter. It allows your thoughts to go to places that you normally wouldn't when you're trying to be in the then and the when and not the now. It's beautiful out here. I love it when I come out into this place and, you know, some other places along the Reed, though. I keep bringing up that there's nobody here. You know, there's never anybody, there's never any people. There's a few homeless that'll live in the bushes, you know, but for the most part, there's nothing but nature and fish and animals. I can hear some creatures moving around in the bushes and stuff. Frogs jumping off the banks. But for the most part, it's just me walking around in the water. You know, it's very serene. Doesn't feel like Tucson. Every time I come out here, I feel like I'm somewhere else. It's hard to believe. Little river oasis, all to myself. But on that point of paradigm change, shifting ideologies and thought processes and priorities and just the overall narrative of the world and humanity and existence shifting to something different than what it has been for so long. I mean, is it real? Is that what's happening? I'm not 100% that that's what's happening. I think that's what's happening. But that's just what I feel. It's not 100% certain. You know, obviously, this is me just tapping into an emotion that I am feeling. It does seem that change is afoot in the world and in society. We've got what I want to just call the harbinger, this three-eye atlas, to me is a harbinger of change, something that we've seen in depictions of art throughout history. All the ancient societies always depicted it as the harbinger of change and times of change. You know, it's coming in and affecting the sun and the other planets and our entire solar system. It's affecting the Earth, which in turn, because we are of the Earth, it affects us as well. It does have a energetic pull and influence on us humans that is undeniable, irrefutable. Sounds like I came up on somebody's camp here, so I guess I'll go around. With this harbinger of change that I speak of, it does seem that it is getting closer to its effect on our planet. They did recently find that it is indeed under unnatural propulsion. That's irrefutable now. I say it's irrefutable because it, of no consequence of gravity, changed its rate of travel once it came out from the other side of the sun. So in its transit around the sun, from the backside from us, when it came out from the other side, its rate of travel changed at a rate that is not capable of it changing due to its relative distance and proximity to the sun. It's not possible for it to have changed its rate of travel to the rate that it is currently traveling due to gravity or gravitational pull. That is irrefutably showing us that it is under unnatural propulsion. So what that means, folks, is it is absolutely intelligently driven. Not only that, you can find now evidence that people have of closer images of it, and it's not one actual thing, it's several crafts traveling behind what seems to be a force field, a shield that protects it from probably radiation and asteroids and, you know, all these things that when you're traveling as fast as it is would be devastating to have a minor collision with. You know, even a little bump to a little grain when you're going, you know, hundreds of thousands of miles per hour would go right through everything, you know? So it's shielded, it's protected. And behind that protective bubble, there are several crafts, okay? Tell you what, I mean, I do go back and forth on all the different religious aspects and stuff, but I do keep an eye on, you know, the vials being poured out on the sun and the different angels, you know, doing their transit to and around and by and near the sun at different times and pouring out their vials. And then the, synchronicities of they will release the nihilists upon society in the last days. Well, I mean, you got to look at it in a sense of, are the nihilists naturally brought about, or are they a societal creation purposefully? I mean, it does seem that the nihilists have been created. If you bring a lot of people and you transplant them and you coddle them and you give them what they need to survive, and in this strange land where you have dropped them and taken care of them, you all of a sudden rip away their means of sustaining themselves. You push them out of the places that you provided them to stay. You make them social pariahs, and then you take away their food and their assistance, and that alone can very easily turn them into what you would irrefutably recognize as nihilists. They all of a sudden are in opposition to the place that they are in every way, because where they are is against them. It's not helping them. It's not taking care of them. They have been basically left to squalor and squander, to fall apart. And you can't really blame these people for being put, then left in this situation. It's kind of a designed state of their being, which is sad. It's horrible. There's plenty of us out here that sustain ourselves. We take it upon ourselves to take care of ourselves and provide for us and our families, and never allow ourselves to become dependent upon the government or other people for our sustaining of life and our needs. But I'm not foolish enough to overlook the fact that some circumstances are out of our control. In certain places, those capabilities have been stripped away for people, and these people are just surviving. Just surviving. And when you get down to base survival, well, all the social norms kind of go out the window. It can very quickly turn into, I just want to live. I just want to survive. That's where you end up with the nihilists. They're against what we would call our peaceful society, because our peaceful society to them is not a peaceful society at all. Crappie and bluegill and shit?
Bluegill, catfish.
Catfish? Hell yeah. This is the spot. Sweet, flows right under there, goes on out. This starts to get a little bit deep right here. Yeah, it starts to get a little deep. We'll have to go up and over to get out of here. I don't want to soak my feet going through. Beautiful little area here. Hell yeah. The inlet to the sewage plant, outlet. Lots of fish to be caught here. So I'll bring up the harbinger. You know, it's not just the single, you know, they are admitting we've got 7 or 9 different comets, all being basically driven towards the direction of 3i Atlas, which does seem to be 9 at least objects altogether that are all traveling in a similar course behind what seems to be a force field or a shield of some sort. And you know, these things traveling the way they are, they're also pulling in other large objects that are flying in, and they're all interacting with each other. The sun's interacting with them. Earthquakes, volcanoes, social unrest, wars, you know, all these things happening at the same time. The only thing that we have left to have come to pass is a cataclysm, you know, a worldwide geological event, a big shake-up, break-up, you know, something that really transforms the earth itself on a global level. And, you know, the vials being poured out on the sun, bro, I mean, you see that the sun is, if you're paying attention, reacting directly with this object that's flying through our solar system. It is sending plasma bursts at it, big ones. Okay, and in the next 2 days, the areas of the sun that have been sending these huge plasma bursts towards it, or them, will be facing us directly. And we're in a situation where we may become a target of the sun. I have yet to hear if the trajectory has changed. You know, it's been very, very strange coincidences of government shutdown and lack of capability of us to be able to track what's actually happening. We're not seeing what it's doing. We're not getting clear pictures, right? We've got the Hubble telescope capable of looking all the way into the past. You know what I'm saying? They were able to find the origination point of existence, supposedly. Okay? If you can look that far that you can see into the past, that's really what it's doing. I know it's hard to imagine, it sounds like science fiction, but stretch your mind, stretch your capability of understanding a little bit. Think science fiction and then put it into the real world. Because that's the day and age we're living in, folks. Science fiction's real these days. So from that place of realization, when they have satellites and telescopes and all this stuff, you know, the Vatican has Lucifer just right over here in the mountains above Safford. We've got Kick Peak over here on the west, southwest of Tucson. All these huge observatories all over the world that are capable of seeing very clearly all these things. And all we get are grainy, shitty pictures. Give me a break. At the time when we need to see it the most, the government shuts down and we see nothing, okay? They're gonna start shutting the government down, calling martial law. It's over SNAP benefits. Oh, then they funded SNAP. Okay, we're good now, right? No, we're gonna go ahead and put soldiers on the streets anyways. Why? Come on, man. 1 + 1 does equal 2. It doesn't equal 3, okay? I don't care where you go to school. You know, it's basic to look at it and see that there's something going on that they don't want the world to freak out about, but they're freaking out to a point that the evidence is starting to show in their behavior. Maybe top officials and government people aren't going to work because they already bugged out. Maybe they already bugged out, folks. Maybe there's just nobody there to run things because the people that know have already prioritized their lives and their families and they've dipped out. Okay, maybe not, but maybe so. Never hurts to hear, say, and conjecture, because that's where free thought leads people when you allow it. When you allow the mind to wander, sometimes random access brings about truth. Starts to allow you to see things that aren't obvious. Ronald Reagan, maybe it would take a worldwide threat from outside of our universe, like aliens, to bring together humanity under a single cause. Bro, is that real? Is that what's happening now? It's just, sometimes I think that's what's really happening in the world right now, is whether it be man-made threat or a reality throughout time. Have they interjected this into our history to be used at a time when it was a necessary tool? Or has this always been coming? Was this always a reality yet to be? Were we always destined to be revisited? I mean, the Mayans, all the way to Kuyu, which is like 40,000 year old structures, probably built before the Druids, you know, times of Atlantis or Tartarus or all, you know, way back in the history of humanity, which is far older than what they want us to know, you know, millions of years old, more likely. I personally have the feeling that the old gods are returning. Inky, Yahweh. Even in the Bible, the singular God in the Bible is named as the God of gods. Okay, so it still doesn't deny that there are other gods in the Bible. It mentions that there are other gods, that God is the highest order above all the others, but the others do exist. So is this what we call God and the angels? I mean, everything's up to interpretation, right? Some things we interpret the way that we interpret it over time. It's become something different than what it was before. But it's still, regardless of what you call it, is what it is. But would a rose by any other name smell as sweet? I always go back to that Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet quote. I mean, who cares what you call it, what you name it? It still is what it is. Whatever, regardless of the name you give it. Its function is the same. So I do want to say that our creators, our minders, the creators of humanity, may be coming back around. Maybe they're just taking readings of the other planets to see how far we've gone, see what civilizations we may have placed on other planets at this point, finding the evidence of our satellites. And I mean, we are having satellite failures and strange occurrences throughout the universe, throughout our solar system and throughout the Earth. We have this South Pacific anomaly, right? We have these different openings off the Horn of Africa towards the west of Africa. where there's literally, supposedly, a large hole in the seafloor. I've heard of this black water bubbling up off the coast of Mexico. Huge holes opening up in the ocean and the seafloor off the coast of Florida. These are signs of deep change within the earth that are starting to manifest on the surface. Changes within, bring about the changes on the outside, right? It starts within and then manifests on the outside. And I do believe, myself personally, that these things are related. There are no coincidences. Coincidence is a failure to see reality as what it is. And me personally, I think that we are knee deep in the time of change from what it always has been as far as our recollection and written down history and what it's going to become soon. I have no hearsay or conjecture on what's coming or what it's going to be. I have no idea. Again, I am not a prophet. I'm not someone who sits here and pretends to have any real hold on the future and what it's going to be. I just observe what is and let free thought be free thought and allow myself to wonder about what may be coming, what possibly can happen, and what does history say has happened. I mean, we have our written history, and then we have the decoded history of the Egyptians and the Mayans and the Aborigines, which truly are probably the oldest living culture that we still have. You know, the Aztecs for sure. You know, the people who are still in Peru. The Seminoles in Florida who still exist were part of what used to be a Greek society that lived here in America, you know. Supposedly, they had Greek style and Roman style structures built throughout the South and the East Coast. They were recanted, repurposed, deconstructed, and moved, and said to be what they aren't, you know, because they don't want to admit that history is far, far further back into the past in this region than they would ever want us to believe. Because if we knew the truth, well, then that would take away the sovereignty of the United States as something that was built and anew and fresh, you know. We just took it from the savages. But what if the savages weren't so savage? What if they had a society that was built up something similar to Greek, Roman society? What if? Just saying what if. I'm not saying for sure, irrefutably, la-di-da. I'm not a history professor. Look at that guy. You see the big old herring. Beautiful. Hello, herring. That I'm gonna call my sign for the day. The gray herring, resident spirit of this area. Graceful, stoic, and presenting itself far beyond what I typically ever find its comfort level is. They never let you get this close. And I see the way that it's standing is almost a presentation in trust. If you allow me, I will walk up closer. I would love to get some more close video of you, my brother, sister. If you allow, please allow me. You let me come this close, I will step by step, slowly approach, okay? Very calmly, so I don't want to startle you. So the herring, it sort of reminds me of the ibex, right? The ibex is the Egyptian bird that they represented as the bird of the underworld, associated with Thoth for a strange reason, because Thoth wasn't the underworld god. That was Horus, right? No, not Horus. The god of the underworld for the Egyptians is Set. Right. It was Hades for the Greeks and the Romans. Strange that the Romans just took the Greek gods, but, you know, they were very close together time-wise. But this guy reminds me, in a sense, of the underworld god. It's graceful, mindful. Look at that beak. Just brutal. We'll see how close he lets me get. I keep my heart in faith and love and peace. Maybe I don't approach directly. Maybe I approach sideways. I mean you no harm, brother, sister. No harm whatsoever. I only seek to observe you in your beauty and your grace. I see you as a beautiful creature. Something that has akin to dinosaurs. Doesn't it, in a lot of ways, look like the depiction of the pterodactyls? With that beak and that head. Very pterodactylish. Now he's still holding solid. We'll make sure I don't move as long as that other person is walking by. As long as they keep a calm walk. Maybe it stays. I can get up into the shadow here. Sure is letting me get close. It's amazing. That bird stands every bit of almost 4 feet tall. Very, very large bird. There he goes. The gray herring. Man, that is a big bird. Huge. I'm gonna get over here so I can catch him in the sunlight. That way I can zoom in on him later when I get back to the editing phase. It's kind of strange though. I've run into more people on this walk than I ever have down here. There's people fishing over there. There are people fishing on the other side. There's always bicyclists and walkers on the trails, but today there's lots of fishing going on. Wow. The blue herring, gray herring. I mean, he does have a blue sheen to it for sure. Very interesting. But at any rate, societal change, it does seem that, to me, I always kind of looked at the days of knights wearing armor wasn't just about fighting and shielding and, battle. Possibly knights were wearing armor because they were living in a time when these stones were falling from space to the earth. And it was unsafe to even go out and try to hunt or get food or do anything outdoors without wearing armor, because a stone could just fall from the sky and take you out. Maybe that's why all the castles and partially some of the pyramid structures and these big structures for living in were built for protection from stones falling from the sky. Another random allowing free thought to lead you to things that you normally wouldn't even consider, but could be reality, unthought of. Because we do tend to keep our thoughts regulated to what we're taught, what others have told us things are, and we don't expound outside of the bounds of those thought processes. And it's somewhere that I like to live these days. I like to stretch outside of the bounds of normality as it is. What people have told me things are, I don't take 100% as what it is. It's just what I've been told. Maybe it's just what they were told. Maybe they never thought any further than what they were told. And they're just telling me what they were told to believe. But possibly there's more to it. And that's why I think that possibly armor wasn't just about being a knight and fighting. Maybe it was about being protected enough to be able to be out in the open amidst stones of hail falling from the sky, right? They say it's going to happen again because possibly it has happened in the past. And if humanity did survive through those kind of situations, then how did they? How did we? Well, adaptability, that is a human trait. It is something that humanity has thrived and survived through a lot. Basically, due to our adaptability, our capability of creating things from our mind into the world, being creators, manifestors, we're able to find a iron substance and heat it with fire, and through our practices of alchemy, create steel and then form that steel into something that protects us. These things have been molded and used in engineering and science, and then you get physics involved, and from there, we've created medicines and so many things. And I don't think any of it's new. I think a lot of these things have come to be and then been lost through great coals due to the sun possibly tossing plasma our way. And I've heard that the electromagnetic pulse could be powerful enough to wipe our electromagnetic portions of our brain that holds everything in place and sets us back to Stone Age, and all humans become cavemen again. I've heard that as a theory, that the societal reset isn't just technology going away and us having to start over that way, but also a mental wipe, like a hard drive being wiped by a magnet. At any rate, just a little free thought on a walk down by the river with fishermen, minnows, and a blue, gray, herring. It's a beautiful day out here in Tucson, Arizona. Loving it. It's gorgeous. I feel so much better. Feel grounded, recharged. I can go spend a little bit more enjoyable time with the family and not feel wound up and spun around. Feel focused again. So glad I had this little walk.